All right. Here we go. We're talking about the power of a woman from the perspective of real men. Today is the launch date. We have been working so tirelessly for the past year and a half to get this book launched. I'm so proud to be able to have Mr. Les Brown write the foreword in this book and then all the support that's coming in around this book. And the reason I wrote this book is going to be really self-evident as we progress through this day. And I'm so blessed and fortunate to be able to have as our launch guest, our first very guest for today. We're going to have several different speakers today, multiple times throughout the day. But this first person is world-renowned Miss Forbes Riley, who is the queen of television when it comes to unbelievable amounts of revenue from products being sold. What is that about? That's about a woman that's empowered, that didn't let anything stop her. Her background is unbelievable. When you hear her story today, I know that all of you, men and women, are going to be extremely empowered by what you hear today. Thank you, Miss Forbes Riley, for blessing us with your presence and this kickoff of the power of a woman.
You know what, Jay? From the moment that I have met you and encountered you, our clubhouse connection, just speaking to you late at night throughout this last year has just meant so very much to me. I'm honored. I love you. And of course, I spent the weekend with Mr. Les Brown. We were speaking to people all around the world. I've been on tour with a company called Real Summits. And I got to tell you, I am one of the only women among all of those men. So I got a lot to talk about today.
You know, Forbes, that really makes me ask the question. And one of the things that made me drive and want to write this book about all of the obstacles. And this book is about equality. It's about bridging the gap. You know, there is an issue, and most people like to sweep these issues under the rug. I'm bringing them out on Front Street and saying, hey, we need to empower women as real men. Don't be afraid to empower women, because as long as someone is suppressed, then you've got to always look over your shoulder. So we want that to stop. And someone like you, who has the background that you've had, which I love for you to share, what made you push through that suppression? Have you actually felt that suppression in your own personal life? We'd love to hear from you on that.
Oh, man, I don't know if we have enough time in my life to go through all of that, but I will tell you something interesting. There is a definite difference between men and women. And there's a lot of differences. One is not better or worse than the other, but I'll tell you, as a woman, having gone through this life in this body with this sensibility, I have certainly felt the conversation of it, but two, trying to make sense of how do we move forward. You know, so if we go back to cavemen, which I really like doing, our origin for, again, I believe in cavemen and even metaphorically cavemen, but in a time when we didn't have computers and brute strength did one thing, Nurturing did something else, and it's how you raised your family. You guys went out and killed the buffalo, and we cooked them up and whatever. And then at night, we all went ahead and made babies, or whatever it is they were doing back then. So I love to eat that way. If you don't eat processed foods, you can live your life better. But as we evolved, and women can do a lot of things that don't require brute strength to make money, to drive businesses. And we realized that the intellectual prowess of both the sexes is pretty much, I won't say whose is actually better, but women have a lot to offer, and men kept moving forward with this brute strength. We can just do that, and a chick should stay in the bedroom and in the kitchen. Well, as we all evolved, women were like, I have a lot more to offer here. And now that I have the time to do that, I can easily clean the house and the food comes to me, I don't have to go kill it. What does that mean? Well, but then you also go back. So from my personal beginnings, I'm not sure why this is, but everyone has always been fixated on my looks. It's always been about looks. I don't think men get this as much as girls do. But are you cute? Are you pretty? Are you awkward? Are you going through whatever? Are you a little too chunky? Every single time someone would talk to me, it had to do with my exterior. I fought this my entire freaking life. And even in the beginning, I don't even know that I fought it, but it was put upon me. When I was growing up, time of the Brady Bunch, remember Marsha Brady? Straight blonde hair, parted in the middle, and a great smile. And when she got hit in the face with a football one day, she didn't go to the prom because her nose got all swollen. Well, backtrack to my beginnings. I was cute in the beginning. At 8 years old, somebody hit me in the face with a baseball bat, and I had a weird, crooked, broken nose. And I had a palate issue. My teeth all went in different directions as a kid. And so at 8 years old, they put me in a full set of railroad braces. And about 10, they stuck a thing in my mouth called a tongue thruster. And so, Jay, for 2 years, I talked like this. And no one wants to talk to somebody who talks like this.
Wow.
Well, that had a mad impression on me. I was also overweight. It was fast food. My mom was 260 pounds my whole life. And I had real frizzy black hair that from the back in the summer, I looked like a freaking Egyptian triangle. And I would blow dry it straight. I would iron it. And all of these images kept reinforcing that I wasn't pretty. And then we had all these beauty pageants. So if you don't think you're pretty, let me show you how not pretty you are. Meanwhile, the boys are playing baseball and football, and they're doing team sports, and they're bonding. And we as women are competing against how cute and shiny our hair is. And I was fixated on that for a long time. And I got bullied, and I was made fun of. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. And the weird thing for me was I was like smart, off the chart smart. I was doing linguistics with a second grade principal, 7 years old, doing linguistics. I built my first computer with my dad when I was 8. In 4th grade, I have to explain to a class on a show and tell how you took the magnet on my ring and that closed the magnetic relays and the silicone strip to make this thing. Let me tell you something. It was wacko. So I was the weird kid that no one talked to. And I had my own little world, my little fantasy world. And then my dad had gotten a horrible accident, cut off the whole front of his palm. And so now I became the kid that no one ever even heard of because I would go to the hospital every night, entire high school, to see my dad. Now, the funny thing about this, Jay, is I'm now 61 years old. And I get to look back about how the life that I created. And I realized you are the sum of the obstacles you overcome. And I am now, as a human being, man or woman, about empowering people to embrace whatever happened to them in their past, not to negate it, not to forget it, not to dismiss it, but to embrace it as the fuel that lets you drive your Ferrari. I have also learned through my journey that many, maybe 80% of the people that you and I talk to every day are hiding secrets that they don't want anyone to know. They were raped, they were touched, they were molested, they were bullied. They grew up being told they didn't matter. And they're hiding that in the back pocket. And the problem I've discovered is that when you hide something in a human being, because we're an organic material, it shows up in other places. It shows up in obesity. It shows up in wrinkles. It shows up you meet somebody, they got that scowl on their face because they're so busy hiding the pain of growing up. So I spent a lot of time working through processes to let people release that trauma so that you can live a beautiful, clean slate. So I don't want to dwell on all the things that I was. I know my dear friend Les Brown, he goes back to being born on the floor with twin brother and being told that he was retarded. A lot of the things that happen to you, wherever you are, make you who and what you are. Now, we also, as human beings, we find a lot of reasons to divide. Basic one, men and women. Second one, color, race. You like the Steelers. I like the Broncos. We always find these reasons to not like each other. I am all about, Jay, figuring out ways as a woman, because we have a couple of gifts, and you do too. There seems to be two sides to every human being. There's the masculine and the feminine of all of us. And I'm going to tell you, as a woman, it's challenging Because when you're in a man, they call it a man's world. What does that mean? I'm going to survive in a man's world. I don't have to be a man, but I do have to know when to push my masculine side versus my feminine side, which is full of intuition and all kind of other tools. And men need to do the same thing. I got to tell you, ever hear Mike Tyson talk? He's like a pussycat. This guy's in the ring killing people. And when he talks, I watch his Broadway show, he's a
Right.
mush.
Right.
And so I don't think it's about being a man or a woman now. Now I think it's about understanding your personal energies and interacting as a complete human being. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. And I know it resonates with everyone here. Forbes, you said something about, a lot of these secrets, they get suppressed. In chapter 4 of this book, I give the statistics, and I was shocked when I went and studied that approximately 137 women are killed, murdered every day by a family member globally.
I
Four
didn't
out
know
of
that.
10 women, 4 out of 10 women in their lifetime will have went through some type of rape. I could not even believe what I was reading. The reason that I got there is because Lena and I, back in 2014, when she got pregnant with our son, we first thought for over a month that it was going to be a little girl. So for over a month, and this doctor said 85% accurate that I can do the birth the sex of this child. 85% I can do it early. And so we thought for a month, and I'm like, am I going to bring a girl into this world? What's it going to be like? So that began to drive me. And so when you said that, that inspired me. And so what we want to do with this book and with people and collaborations with people like you, Forbes, here's what we want to do. We want to be able to bridge that gap by, first of all, let's admit that there is an issue. And then let's go ahead and empower through communication. What have you been able to do, Forbes, as far as from your platform, that you've been able to say, okay, I know I've went through these things. I know other women have went through these things. Do we sit here? Do we cry? Do we complain? What do we do, especially with mental health being such an issue? How do we take some steps as our viewers that are listening to overcoming that? Because I know you've done like a couple $1 billion in sales revenue. That means that you didn't let this stop you. So what do we do with these things for?
Well, God, that's a whole lot of things. Number one, your statistic is wrong about rape. You know how I know that?
Go ahead.
Because that other 3 and 4 women, they don't report it. They don't talk about it. They don't tell. So you didn't know about it. So you double that number, brother, because I talk every day to people. And that's what you do not know. And rape is sometimes molestation when grandpa walks into your room and you're 4 to 7 years old. I've got statistics that would blow your mind that no one's ever publicly known of all of the women and men that I work with. They are not reporting these things, but they are carrying it with them. And some of the most horrific things you've ever imagined. I just went through with a woman in a youth hostel when she was a young girl. And she didn't even remember this. It came out in a conversation that somebody had gotten the key, put her face down to a pillow, and from behind raped her. She didn't report that. So let me tell you about that number. That is a very, very devastating. I'm going to say it's more like 8 out of 10. And I've talked to those people. Now, here's the thing. We are called the weaker sex because the truth is you guys are physically stronger. I'm a little confused about how we're supposed to do all this. I don't want to see women play football. I don't think you should. Is that a bad thing? No, you're not physically, or run track. Men run faster and are bigger and stronger. Congratulations. You know what? That's fine. I think as a woman, I went through the whole Me Too thing. I was around in a time when no one talked about any of this. I was going after a big agent at ICM. I was a young 20-year-old, pretty hot-looking chick, had just done a Broadway show, and this guy invited me to take a meeting, only it was in a hotel. Thought that was fine. We'll go have lunch. Didn't mention it was in his hotel room. Now, luckily, this was a pretty short guy. And I walk in the room, and there's lunch, and I'm thinking, we'll have lunch. I'm pretty naive. That was not what was on the menu. And he chased me around. I actually thought it was comical because he was so little, right? Like, if he'd been a big guy, if he'd been Harvey Weinstein, I might not have gotten through that story in the same way.
But he felt he could do it. Something made him feel he could do that.
Well, you know what it is? Hey, if you want me to represent you, you want to be a star, you want to be the actresses. Oh my God, that is what they lauded over all of us. Hollywood is made up of this story. Jay, I am an actress and I'm Broadway trained, and in fact, I got a movie right now today that just premiered on Amazon Prime called From Farm to Fork to Love. Please go check it out. I watched it last night.
Everybody check that out.
And I loved being an actress, but that barrier to entry. Do you know when the whole Me Too thing came out? I was I don't think I stopped crying because I don't think I knew I knew what I personally went through. How I had the big PR guy, Paul Block, who just died, who took me on his arm to the Batman premiere. And then invited me out to Palm Springs. And I said, well, where am I sleeping? And he said, you're kidding, right? I'm like, no, I'm not going. Well, that's what everyone does. I'm like, but I was raised with a very puritanical. My mom was married a virgin at 27. I was given a whole set of parameters that I followed for a very long time. I can stand here and say that I did lose my virginity at 21 to a guy that I loved. I didn't end up marrying him, but I had things that my parents taught me. Kids now are very, very different, and that's okay. But when they came at me, I just thought how ridiculous. I would never, ever do that. Why would I do that? But Jay, all of a sudden it dawned on me. I got to a certain ceiling as an actress, and I couldn't get to the other side of it. Do you know how grateful I am that I didn't interview with Harvey Weinstein, that I didn't get into the Academy Award-winning movies? Because I don't think any actress in that period, my period, escaped all of that. And now this guy's serving his life in jail. But that was what was running around Hollywood. My beautiful fiance, Joshua, he left the modeling industry at 17. He's one of the most beautiful men I've ever seen. He's from a small town in Ohio. It's not just women. It's not just men. It's people in power. I don't know. I don't understand this part of the game, and I don't know that it's changing. But he said he left because of a gay mafia. He said he just was not interested, and no one would leave him alone. They just wouldn't stop. He literally ran out of Hollywood because he didn't know quite what to do. So I do think power and sex are one aspect that if you want to get to the top of a food chain, you had better be prepared, because it's behind closed doors and you will never hear about it. And Jay, you talk about some of my power right now. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say something, but we're talking about abortion, what's happening in Texas right now. I heard the silliest thing I've ever heard. They banned abortion. Now, is abortion murder? Yeah, I'm actually right to life, and I understand what it is, but I also see all these little girls who are being sold, kids who are not wanted and not loved, and that breaks my heart. So that's part of a conversation that we're really not having. What happens to a baby when they're born and they're not wanted, they're not loved? I spend a lot of time talking to these grown-up women who were the daughters of alcoholics who've been molested. I don't want kids coming into the world who have to go through that experience. They don't deserve that life. But then the governor said out loud, we're going to work to eliminate rape. I'm sorry, why don't you work to eliminate fast food while you're at it, or breathing? Because I don't understand the concept that a man would say that and think that that's going to happen. It's behind closed doors. It's one of my clients, Jay. She lost 200 pounds. She was looking so damn good. She's in her kitchen. The plumber makes a pass at her. She's like, no, I'm not interested. She turns around. He takes a gun out. He shoots her 2 times in the back, rapes her on the floor, and lets her bleed out on her own kitchen floor. She's my client because she needs to heal from all this. Jay, I don't understand what do you do with all of that?
Wow.
So that's an interesting conversation. And I have a lot of stories like this, my friend. I didn't quite know this is where it's going to go, but I do have a voice and a power, and I am a woman. But I'm a woman who believes in love. I really, more than anything. I'm not going to tell you how to be or who to be, but I started the conversation saying, if you're a bald man, you have 400 hours more every year than I do. See the hair, see the nails, see the lipstick, see the eye. And you're married, Lena. The eyelashes, the hair, the nails. Guys, 400 hours a year I spend doing all of this. What do you do with all that time? You're writing books about women. You're having a great, and it's a funny thing. But Forbes, you can show up without doing your hair, without makeup. No, I can't. There's a standard. It's a standard that we've come to understand in this country. Tony Robbins walks out on the same stage I do. He's got on size 92 sneakers, pair of shorts, and his hair's all ruffled. I am in the back with the makeup artist, the glam thing. Do I wear high heels or no heels? Or do I wear, this kind of a bra? Oh my gosh, being a woman is a challenge. And being a public woman is a really, really big challenge. So it's an exciting journey. I wouldn't trade places with you. I think it's interesting, though, that you had that vibe about I've given birth to a girl. I wouldn't trade being a girl in this life for anything. Because there was an old kind of it's not a dirty joke, I guess, but you've got one of your things down there. With mine, I can get as many of those things as I want.
Hey, you never know. When we do shows and Forbes and I get together, this thing can go anywhere. But see, listen, let's check out the title of the book, The Power of a Woman from the perspective of real men. Two words I want to bring out, Forbes: power and real. Power and real. You said, what do we do in all this? We empower, and we do it through conversations like this, which is real. There's a quote, and somebody's put a comment here. Tanique, she says, I am getting chills listening to this message with you and Forbes Riley. Look at that, Forbes. That's how we make a difference, because there's people that are hearing us. And see, we're going to advertise this link when we're done today. I have a team that's going to be advertising this link, going out to thousands of people, and everyone listening to the replay of this. I want you to know what you're hearing is what makes the change. It's called awareness.
Right.
Most
so
people
here's what I'm going to tell you.
They're going, I didn't know all this kind of stuff. A lot of people, they just don't want to even know about it. But Forbes, right, you're talking about it, and you're a woman talking about it, and you're a successful multimillionaire woman talking about it. Give us some more. Forbes.
You know what? You want to hear something funny? Because so God gave me a couple of wonderful gifts. Gave me a set of twins, boy-girl twins. So I got to raise both sexes. I got to see how this is working out. And I'll tell you what, my kids are fascinating. My son was varsity quarterback of the football team. My daughter owns $1 million company. They both are 18, have not yet even started college, running their worlds. But when my son was a senior in high school, you know what he ended up doing? He ended up being the president of the Young Feminist Club. And I thought, Riker, what are you doing? He's like, Mom, nobody's really listening to them, and they have issues. And I grew up with a mom. His dad, by the way, is a 6'6" Notre Dame football player. We've got testosterone and estrogen all over. You could have picked anything. And I'll tell you what, he's definitely a boy and a guy. But I'll tell you something. I don't really know you, but you have two parents who loved you, don't you?
Yes.
I know you do, because you couldn't have written the book if you didn't. Every time a man opens the door for me, or like literally I was walking through the other day, like he held it for a couple of seconds before I got there. And I looked at him and I said, you had a good mom. And I'm going to say that one of the reasons that you can write this is that you had loving parents. That's the greatest gift you can ever give a kid. But how many kids out there, Jay, have no mom or dad, have one or the other, or have been orphaned or whatever, or they're alcoholics, or the stress of life is getting to them, or money is so hard that they are not neglected on whatever level? That's the next generation. They don't have time to sit around and think about esoteric shit like you and I are talking about. They're too busy living life on a daily basis and going with their instincts. And instincts, masculine instincts, man, that's dangerous, because that causes war. That big testosterone, you guys get in the rain, want to punch each other. Not all the girls starting wars lately, I'm not sure, but so there is this hormonal difference. Yeah. And I just want to make the conversation aware, because it's confusing. I love dressing up. I love dressing sexy. But if a young woman dresses too sexy and she gets raped, they say it's her fault. We need to have this conversation. But I'm going to go back to education, how we raise our kids, how we love on our kids. And I don't think as a generation that we do.
Wow. You brought up about parents. Like, my parents were crazy early on. Even though they loved me, they didn't know how to fully express that love. But in this book, that woman, my grandmother, Ida Mae Nolan, woo! She came in like a mother hen and just would swoop her grandchildren. There's 7 of us that are her grandkids. And she protected us. So when our parents, my mom, she had me when she was 19. And so she didn't really know what she was doing. My dad was 21. So those little stop gaps of having that strong woman, female figure come in, I visualize that being like you too, Forbes, being that female figure that that eagle.
Come here for a second. Want to see what this female has attracted in her life?
Come on in. Here goes another real man. My man. There's a real man right here.
A real man?
But a real man who just brought me. Wait, show him what you just did for me, baby.
What I did for
you?
Yeah,
he just brought me. This is what real men do while his girls are working. He just made the most beautiful breakfast for me. I got to tell you.
Give me a little taste. I love it, man.
You gotta get 6 or 7 cups of vegetables every day.
And there you go.
6 or 3 in it already.
So what do you think about me? You know what? You have a great mom, don't you?
I don't consider you my mom.
No, I meant you have a great mom. You were raised by a wonderful mom, weren't you?
Yes, I had a family. I had one brother, and of course I got my grandparents and my cousins and all of them. So I was pretty blessed with a good family.
Think that makes a difference?
Makes a huge difference. Huge difference. My grandparents been together for 50 years, and that shows that means a lot to me. That installs a sense of what's the word?
Security?
No, dedicate. Well, not dedication,
Loyalty?
but loyalty. Yes.
You are the most loyal man I've
Loyalty.
ever met.
Loyalty.
I got to tell you something. When I first met Joshua, we got all kinds of shit. There's a little bit of an age difference, and people couldn't wait to diss on that. I got to tell you, what do you think of your girl? What do you think of me?
Oh, you're the most amazing woman I've ever met. So I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that.
Now, if we could just afford to buy you a shirt. I love giving you gifts. I love you.
I think all the ladies love it. Before we let him get away, about the title. The title of the new book is "The Power of a Woman from the Perspective of Real Men." What does that say to you when you hear that title? The power of a woman.
You were cutting in and out. Power of a woman
from the perspective of a real man.
Power of a woman.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
One thing that attracted me to her was the power she has, and the power she has helps so many people. So it means a lot to me because it gives me more respect to her. And if you don't have respect for your woman, then it's not a good match.
I love you, baby. I love you. Getting heavy on my
all right.
I mean, appreciate you. So think about that. See, we got a little surprise. Forbes gave everybody a little surprise, a little eye candy going on over there. What's up with that, Forbes? All the ladies are going a little taste.
Let me tell you something. Not eye candy, just the love of my life. And we've been together almost 5 years. And I didn't meet him until I was 57 years old, my friend. It changed everything. I understand now what the level of depth and loyalty. He lost his dad when he was 2 years old. It was a car crash. And then at 15, he lost his stepdad in a car crash. The word loyalty means everything to him. And for me, that has allowed me to feel comfortable. The first time I had a marriage before, and I raised a little boy from South Central, a lot darker than you, who was murdered. And that took its toll on my ex and I a lot. That'll teach you a lot about life. That he was killed by a kid who didn't have a mentor. So I have a lot of things going on in my head. And Josh was fun. He literally last year was in a motorcycle accident, lost everything, shattered his ankle, shattered his body, spent 6 months in a wheelchair, shriveled up to nothing, woke up in June of last year and said to me, I'm going to be Mr. Olympia October 6th, 2021. And I watched him for a year, Jay, rebuild his body, dedication to food and working out and just loving on, all through COVID. And he competed a couple of days ago. He did not win first place, but I'll tell you what, he looked unbelievable. And the power of a woman, partly, is being able to love a man with her whole heart, or I scratched that. Being able to love a partner, because I have a lot of friends who love other women. I don't care if you love it. It's got to be a person, not just your dog. I think at once in your life, when you can love another human being, and it doesn't matter what they look like, who they are. I was raised, my best friend was gay before that word was anything. And she's married to a woman for the last 30 years. So I have to just remember, it doesn't matter. But being loved, and I see that with your wife. That is the power of a woman. You know what the power of a woman is? We are nurturing, we are loving, we have intuition. We have more power than we ever would imagine. But do not go head to head with a man. I'll tell you why. Because when two energies like this meet, when a woman's in her masculine power, you're not a woman. When you're in your feminine power and let a man be a man, there's a way to do this. Or even in your own, whatever your relationship is, the male and female sides, you need to do a dance because he makes me come home. You're going to think this is crazy. Forbes Riley is who I am, but I was born with a different first name. And I changed it 30 years ago, made a big difference in my career, kind of like Marilyn Monroe used to be Norma Jean Baker, right? When I come home, he makes me. It doesn't make me. We've decided that I'm going to use that name. I won't want to tell you what it is. But he's like, I want my little girl. He said, I don't want the woman who's out there slaying the world. I get you're that powerful. But I need my little girl. And you know what I need? I need those big, strong arms. And I just want to let it go. And at the end of the day, be this little this beautiful flower, this woman, this all that feeling. And I think that has fed, because for years, I would think I was kind of brittle. I was living in that masculine world. And this goes for all my ladies. If you are always fighting, you lose the beautiful part of you, this tender part, this, I call it feminine energy, but that is the power of a woman. And I had a vision as you were just talking. Joshua sat here and talked about his grandma, that maybe we harness grandma power. That love, that experience that comes when you're in your 70s and your 80s and you've watched generations grow and you've been through stuff and you tell stories and I want to meet your grandma. I want to meet his grandma. I didn't meet my own. And maybe you just hit on something that's what we need.
Yeah, I see that in you, Forbes. Forbes, when I look at what you're bringing to the table, you're asking, what can we do? You've already created a big platform. I said this to you one night in a clubhouse room. I said, you have not been, in my opinion, this is my opinion, properly positioned for the platform that you created because of that testosterone issue. But you see, what I'm going to inspire, I'm intentionally inspiring this, is for people like when your significant, wonderful other, Josh, came over. What? It's an inspiration. There's going to be more men come up and just go sit down in their baby's lap. What if we had a whole week where you saw all the men come over and just sit down in their woman's lap and say, you know what, I love her. And she says, I love him. And we just do what Forbes just said. We dance. What made you say that, Forbes? You said it's a dance. I want to go in just a little bit. I know we're getting time short, but what made you say the words dance? Because that resonated with me.
I feel the yin and the yang. I'll tell you, when he just sat down here and he's not, it reminds me about what love is. See, I don't think I created that in my life. And I think that I was so angry in my late 20s, 30s, 40s, because as an actress, you're rejected all the time. You are put down. You're told that you're not pretty enough. You're too young. You're too old. You're too fat. Baby, I've been told so many things in my life. I went on diet programs. I was on Broadway with Christopher Reeve, and I had to go to Overeaters Anonymous. I have been put down for things that would blow your mind. I don't want people to have to suffer over all this bullshit anymore. And I don't know if we're going to get over it. Because, Jay, let me ask you a question. I looked at the Forbes 100 most successful women. Now, this was an interesting phenomenon. The women who were CEOs of companies all had short hair and looked like guys. There were like 8 women there. There was J-Lo, it was Beyonce, and those women were all super glamorous. And I'm like, is there no in between? Can you run a company? And because you're competing in a man's world. Think about this. I got real successful for a while, and I have a couple of friends, I won't mention their names, but they're guys, and they go out playing golf. Do you know that I can't go out with them? You know why? Because their wives don't want me hanging out with their husbands on the golf course. And it makes sense to me. I don't want my man going out to a business meeting with a gorgeous woman. And that was kind of weird. I'm like, well, wait a second. You're this feminist. How is it you don't want that? Uh-oh. Oh, man. I'm talking to women. Remember, I help a lot of people. I help a lot of people through personal trauma. And I'm loving this. But I now have a whole influx of women who've been traumatized in the military service. And part of me is now thinking, maybe you don't put men and women on a ship together out in the middle because of nature. Nature has got nothing to do with how smart we are now. We're not gender neutral. We have urges. And it's like, oh my goodness. And if you're a tough military man, again, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying that might be an interesting issue. And you're never going to solve the problem because it's nature. And I said to a friend of mine the other day, she's gorgeous. And she dresses, that gorgeous. Where we all both look twice, right? In a boardroom. No, but think about this, Jay. If you got a whole boardroom full of men, 40, 50, 60 men, right? And a gorgeous woman walks in. Come on. She's a secretary. She's somebody's daughter. I'm going to bend her over the table. You tell me they're not thinking that.
You're talking real. She's talking real. This is what this is about. And so we can't change everybody. Just can't. but we can change a lot of bodies. We can change the influence. And when I thought I was having a daughter, I'm like, I can't completely change this world, but I can have an influence in this world.
Well,
And
but let me turn around. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you because it's so funny because I had somebody say they didn't want to have a son. I'm like, oh, no. I'm so glad I had both. Oh, you wrote this book because what is it that you want us to know about women from your perspective?
I want men, first and foremost, and me being a person of color, having to deal with that discrimination. I firmly believe as long as we have inequalities, it keeps fear prevalent. And so my purpose of writing this book was to show that someone that's had the success that I've had. I was a professional baseball player for 6 years. I've had a tremendous amount of success in business for the past quarter of a century, over 25 years. I've done business. I've spoken in 20 plus countries. I've done business in about 90 countries around the world. And what inspired me to do that? It was Ida Mae Nolan, which was my major driving force when I look back. And then when I got into business, I didn't have immediate male mentorship. I had three, and I talk about them in the book, three powerhouse women. I was 27 at the time when I first started in my entrepreneurial journey. There was a 23-year-old young lady from Romania that didn't speak clear English. She was my first mentor. And I mean, she laid it down on me the first day I met her. And I was
In
like,
what way? Wait. In what way did she lay it down?
I walked in as this ex-professional athlete, and they were introducing me to her. She'd had a lot of success already. And I was coming in going, well, what about this? And what about that? Using my, ego and in this ex-professional athlete aura. What about this? What about that? What about this? And she says, well, what about your bank account? And I could not believe she had the intestinal fortitude. She said, well, what about, I said, what do you mean, what about my bank account? We don't have to go there. And she started laughing. She goes, yes, we do got to go there. Because even though I had done well professionally, I was broke, like most athletes. I was living with a roommate. They just repossessed my car. And she says, the way you're thinking is not right. So she introduces me to her mentor that's 26 years old. So I'm 27, ex-professional athlete. I still haven't gotten to somebody that's even my age. The 26-year-old, she lays it down on me. One day I was having this attitude about this and this and this, and she said, let me tell you something. If you don't pay attention, I'll never work with you another day of my life. She says, and if you don't understand the power that you have to stop bringing up all these issues from what you used to be, let's talk about what you're going to be. I'm not going to respect you for who you are. Listen to what she said to me, Forbes. She says, I refuse to respect you for who you are. I got to respect you for who you should be.
Oh.
Now look, 23, 26, and then they introduced me to a 28-year-old. So I finally get 1 year above. She's a powerhouse lady, multi-millionaire, had a beautiful home in Clearwater, Florida, another one in San Diego. And I go and I sit down and talk to her. And she says, listen, honey, she honeyed me. She only a year older than me. Said, listen, honey, you know what I'm talking about, Forbes? She's like, listen, honey. And she starts telling me. And I'm like, well, how are you able to do what you've done? She goes, well, I started as an entrepreneur at 22 years old, but I started focusing on making residual income and not exchanging hours for dollars. So while you've been doing what you're doing, even though you were a professional athlete, you were exchanging hours for dollars. She goes, I've been mastering making residual income for the past 6 years while most other people are distracted by just making a living. I said, oh. And those three had me in a micronism for multiple years. And as I got to spend close time with them, they just taught me, we became cool. It went from this hard coaching to now they saw that I respected them because multiple times I wanted to speak my mind. But something in me says, if I go ahead and tell them how I feel, they're not going to teach me what they know because they had it going on. And they saw that in me that I was humble enough. So this book combines all that dance that you're talking about.
You are so fortunate and being used as a vessel. And I do think that that's how this life works, is that being that at that pinnacle, it's hard to get higher than professional athlete in America. That's a powerful thing. And to say what you just did about the three women who impacted you and the book that's come out of that, that I do think we all need to read, because I think it's a conversation. And I think it's a conversation that has to happen every single generation as we are moving and changing, because women are always going to have the babies. We're always going to have to worry about our bodies. It's kind of, and men and women always have to be attracted to each other. I get that. But as we are intellectually moving forward and principles of business and learning how to be a human being, a functional, productive human being, because at some point, the sex is irrelevant. Now we're just people. I don't look at you as a guy. I look at you as a person, as a contemporary, as a peer. What can I learn? What can I give? How can I build with you? Not from you, by you, or at. We have to stop that mentality. And again, I just think we're going to have to learn it every generation, because every generation you go back to cavemen, and men are going in there clubbing things and women are going, come choose me. And then we should be really lucky that we're humans, because I'll tell you what, how many kids do you have, Mr. J?
One son.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you were a black widow spider, as soon as you mated with your wife, she would have bitten your head off. If you were a grasshopper, she would have bitten. So you're lucky you're a human. We don't bite our men and kill them, but some days I might want to.
I love this. I love this, man. What an interview, man. What an interview. Thank you, Forbes, so much for this time. I think the bottom line that I got out of this conversation is that this book creates the conversations.
Yes.
It just does, It just does. I mean, here it is. I am, for a fact, a strong man, and I've had a lot of success, and I'm willing to say we got to empower women. Fellas, what we're going to do with that? Ladies, what do y'all want to do with that?
I love this. This is actually, you know what? I'm going to invite you on my radio show. I do it every Wednesday live. I would love to continue this conversation to my audience, because the book is the conversation. And I'm going to tell you, that's the only hope that we have, is to have the conversation, is to heal things that are broken. However you were raised, we can fix some of that. But moving forward from today on, how do you want to be loved, looked at, respected? Who do you want in your life? It's funny. It's not even just men and women. It's any inequality. I've got a client. She's 3'8" tall. And it's a funny thing because she'll always be 3'8" tall. She's cute and she's fit and she's amazing. But she said to me the other day, she's like, I hate short people or little people. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, I don't want to date. I just want to date men, normal men. I said, stop using that word normal. Nothing's normal. And we talked about seeing life at a certain perspective. And I thought, my ex is 6'6". And I watched how people would always, smaller guys would go, and there'd be that inequality. We have to stop finding the inequality and start focusing on us as a community. There's two things that we're all fighting, and we need to remember this. We're fighting global change. When the water comes up and it wipes out Louisiana or wiped out parts of New York, it doesn't matter what color, what size, what age you are dealing with you versus nature. And that is a really important thing. And then aliens come down. So there's two things that should unite us. I don't want to wait for either one of them. I do think if we see an alien land, we're all going to be, we're humans. I love you. I love you if you're Japanese. I love you if you're Australian. We just love each other, right? Or nature. That's the only two enemies. Not enemies. I don't think, but anyway. But nature can be our enemy. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on loving our neighbor. That golden rule, treat others like you would like to be treated. Jay, if we could just teach that one lesson. I want diversity. Before you go, I'm going to tell you something. I do think a lot happens when you're younger, and I am very blessed to have gone through some really bad things. Guys, think about life happens for you, not to you. So when I was 10 years old, I was in 1970. On Monday, everybody who had brown eyes had to stay after school, pick up the garbage, and I got extra homework. And everyone with blue eyes and green eyes got to go home. Well, I got hazel eyes. I'm like, see, they're green. Like, no, you're with the brown kids. I'm like, all right. All week long, it was horrific. I mean, we were treated like absolute dirt, and like there's nothing you can do to change your eye color, and I didn't understand it. By Friday, we're in the auditorium, and we are marching. We're protesting with signs, little 10-year-olds with signs. They sat us down. They said, how does it feel? We were all protesting. They said, well, there's nobody in our community that's any different. Y'all look kind of white to me. It's Jewish and Italian. It was pizza, pasta, and matzah. There was no Asian. There were no black. There was nothing in that little community I grew up in Long Island. but this one exercise. And they said, see this, you guys, you can't change the color of your eyes. And how bad did it feel to be made to feel less than for something you have no control over? And I said, it feels horrible. Well, that's what this country's going through when it comes to skin color. And so this little 10-year-old girl over here got one of the greatest gifts ever to understand that it doesn't matter. I don't, when you said black man, I don't look at the color of people at all. I never did. Because of that, I think. Because I was made to feel so bad. I'm like, what's the difference? But I will tell you two things that happened out of that. Kind of funny. Life happens for you, not to you. 10 years later, blue contact lenses come out. And I get them because in the back of my little pea brain somewhere, I'm thinking, is blue better? I see actors with blue eyes. They talk about blue eyes. It's funny what residually lives in your head. I got off to college. You know what I did, Jay? And they just awarded me for this. There were 2 acting groups when I got to my college. One was called ABDA, one was called COPA. The ABDA were the black kids doing River Niger. And the white kids, this is pretty funny to me, they were doing Mikado. They were literally doing the Gilbert and Sullivan. I'm like, you do know that that's not white, right? That's Asian. But anyway, I put those 2 groups together and I did a show called The Me Nobody Knows. It was a musical based on the streets of New York. No one had ever dared do that. I got the articles written, and 37 years later, somebody actually just took me out to lunch and handed me this and to say, thank you. I thought, man, all I did was to live a life and gifts that I've been blessed, to not see colored. And then I raised a kid from South Central. I remember being the only white face at a lot of events. Who cares? They danced better than my friends did. I had a blast. And that's what I want for the world. I don't know that we'll see it in our lifetime, my friend. But I love that we can maybe at least heal the woman-man thing.
That's right.
And learn to dance together.
Learn to dance, man. It's been so wonderful. Forbes, how do people get a hold of you? You blessed us with so much today. If people want to learn more about you, what you're doing, how they can work with you, can they get anything from you? Where do they get that from, Forbes?
Well, let's see. Number one, you can make yourself stronger with my little fitness product. All you do is you go to ForbesRiley.com. And everything I do is listed there. I'm all over social media. I love my 1.8 million Facebook fans. And you and I know I spend a lot of time in Clubhouse. I teach there every Saturday. Actually, you know what? If you guys ever want to come into a room with me, here is a gift. It's called WWW Pitch Secrets Master Class. It's also at theforbesRiley.com. But I have, since the pandemic started, Jay, I am so passionate about communication skills to yourself and to other people. I've pitched $2.5 billion worth of product through infomercials, through live home shopping. You give me a product, I will pitch it. But I created a formula now. I created a system that I put people through. 4,000 people have done this since June of last year. Because you have to pitch at all times, my friend. And not just as a baseball player, but you got to pitch your ideas. If you want to go to your favorite restaurant, when you asked your beautiful bride to marry you, what did that pitch sound like? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, man.
You enrolled her, you excited her, you engaged her to be on your team. It's kind of funny. We're coming out with a whole new baseball analogy. Maybe I need to reach out to you and have you kind of utch all over this. Because in my world, you don't want to strike out. You as the perfect pitcher one, you want to make a home run. You want to get your ideas, your products, your services out to people so you can better their lives. And as Zig Ziglar said, when you give a lot of people what they want, they'll give you what you want. And whether it's in a company, whether it's residual income, whatever it happens to be. I just spent 2 weeks in Costa Rica. 2 months in Costa Rica. I escaped from here for a little while to live in the jungle because I needed to remember what life is its basis level. Jay, I just spent moments watching an army of ants all carry leaves, and I remember watching this whole army working together of ants. And I thought, man, if they can do it, we can too.
Absolutely. What a wonderful, wonderful show. Man, we've got Forbes Riley. Get over to ForbesRiley.com. She's got tons, multi-millions of dollars. Multi-millions of dollars worth of information is powerful. We can do anything. Look at that.
You know what? We talk about Forbesing it. There's 2 things, Forbesing it, and then what would Forbes do?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, you know what it means to Forbes it? You Forbesed that book. There was a moment, I'm sure, where somebody said, oh, why are you writing a book about women? But you had a vision. You Forbesed it. To Forbes something, my darling, means to create it, to manifest it, especially when people tell you no.
Yeah.
It's living your own size of your dream. And then what would Forbes do? I'll tell you what. I've lived an amazing life. And I don't like to talk about all that anymore. You can go read about my bio. But you know that I helped create the X Games? Did you know that about me?
No.
You like watching? Right,
What was that?
1995, me and Stuart Scott out there for ESPN. You want to, for 6 years, I was the host of the X Games.
That's
Launched
right.
in probably, I know. And you, wait a second, really? When I look at what I did with Body by Jake, we created the idea of selling fitness products on TV. I was a pioneer in infomercials, 194 of them. I have all this stuff living in my head. And I did it as a little girl on a mission who never really felt like she was enough until recently.
Wow.
So if I can do that without all my ducks in a row, you go grab Jay's book and find out how to really harness the power of a woman. And then for all of my men watching this, do me a favor. Remember where you came from.
Yeah.
She was a woman.
Beautiful show, beautiful guests, our wonderful friend and sister, Forbes Riley, and that powerhouse eagle setting up on the nest, ready to swarm in and swoop in and help as many people as possible. We love you, Forbes. Thank you for blessing us and honor us today. Hey, get over to Amazon, grab the book, guys. It's going to be raising up the Amazon bestsellers list today. It's happening right now. If you get over there to Amazon, Barnes Noble, Target, you can get it, but you can get a special price at Amazon. We got the link right there. Check it out in these comments. You can grab it real quick. Thank you, Forbes Riley. Everybody go check out ForbesRiley.com. Thank you, dear. We love you. We honor you. Until the next time, we got another show coming up soon. See y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Mwah.